The Borner farm has been in the news recently, but I didn't really know what it was, so I decided to have a look.
Well, the farm's been here longer than Prescott has been here. The Borner farm has been the Borner farm for well over 100 years, and the Borners worked the farm until about the 50s, and since then it has not been plowed. They had cattle on it, and so the soil is well fertilized, and it just remained a farm, and the city grew up around it. It was a much bigger farm, and so it was parceled off for different housing developments and things. But so when I moved here in 1985 with my husband, I started to go on walks in town, and I would walk by the farm and wave at the people that lived here doing their gardening out front. They had flower beds out front, and never really thought all that much of it, except that I thought it was pretty cool that there was a farm in town. And then my husband and I started a nursery at our home on Pearl Street called Funky Gardens. And we ran that nursery for about 15 years. And we sold unusual perennials, hostas, and eventually trees and shrubs. And as our kids were getting older, we decided, well, we wanted to move into something else. It was a lot of work, and it was just time to change direction a little bit. And in the meantime, I had become really interested in, worried about what kids are eating. You know, raising my kids, I was reading the backs of all the packages and being very careful of what they were eating, and buying organic milk and those kinds of things, and then seeing, you know, what their friends in turn were eating, and starting to get concerned about our food system in general, and doing a lot of reading about it. I also found that when we sold our business, and they did not buy our property, so they took the business and moved it elsewhere, and we stayed in our home. And so our social life sort of went away with our business, and we looked around the community and we thought, well, what should we do? Should we stay here? Should we move? You know, but we loved Prescott, and but we did feel a little bit of lack of community for us, and we felt like that was to a large degree because we were not engaging. And so we thought, well, how can we engage and create the community that we'd like to have? In the meantime, I started to play around with growing vegetables. Hadn't done that for several years because we had our whole yard covered with display gardens of ornamentals and just didn't have time. So I looked around for a patch of land on our property that still had some space in the sun, and I did a small, maybe 20 by 20 garden down by the road, and I built a trellis system that I had read about in a book, and it was a little bit crazy, and lo and behold, my neighbors started coming out of the woodwork to ask me what I was doing, and they called my contraption Diane Henge, and then I started planting, and one neighbor that I hadn't spoken to for quite some time came out and sat down, and we weeded together and just had a great conversation. And I realized at that point that was a great way to find my community, was to do hands-on work, something that we loved, something that people of all different lifestyles and all different whether you work up in the Twin Cities and you come back for evenings and weekends, or anybody who comes together in the garden or prepares food together or does any kind of work like that together that's essential for our well-being, you can have a conversation with. It doesn't matter what your politics are, doesn't matter what your religion is. And I loved that. And shortly after that, I was walking by the farm on one of my regular walks, and it dawned on me that, oh my gosh, there's a farm in the middle of town, and how unusual that is. So I hiked back down to my house, and we still had our business, our funky gardens, and Sally Olson, who worked with me for 10 years on our gardens, was diligently working that day. And I said, Sally, do you know anything about the people that own the farm up the hill? And she just happened to be good friends with Virginia Klecker, who owned the farm, and her parents had passed away, so she was living on the property for, I think they had maybe passed away a couple of years earlier. And they were about to have a estate sale. So I said together, they were going to have an estate sale with Sally. So I said, well, Sally, if I make a thermos of coffee, would you hike up the hill with me, and we'll introduce me to Virginia and let me talk to her about what might come of this farm. And so we did that, and I found out that Virginia, although she loved being on the farm and the place of her birth, she would have to eventually sell it, and it would probably be bulldozed and probably developed. So after two more thermoses of coffee and a plate of cookies, we agreed that she would let us start a community garden in the back of the property. So that was wonderful. So she charged us $1 a year to rent the property, and we had a half-acre garden the first year, and we divided some of it up for community beds, and some of it we planted ourselves. And that was the beginning of what turned out to be the Borner Farm project.
What came first, the idea of urban agriculture, or did you think of the CSA concept?
No, I didn't really know where it was going. I just knew that I needed to participate in accessing local food here and creating a market and for people to access local food. And I just felt very strongly that there were other people like me that needed a different kind of community gathering place. I felt a little bit disconnected, so it was community, bringing community together and doing what I could to correct what I can see as the poor direction our food system is going. Mm-hmm.
You still need money to keep this place going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the tricky part. It's a lot of money to keep a property like this up. The barn needs a roof. We have plumbing repairs. It's an old house, and we have snow plowing in the winter.
Tell me about the different ways the project sustains itself.
We have a CSA, which is Community Supported Agriculture, and this year we have 21 families that put money up front at the beginning of the season so that we can get the materials and the seed, and I feel confident that we will be able to pay interns that come. So that gets us started during the season, and I'm so grateful to those folks. For their money up front, they get 20 weeks of vegetables. They get a box a week. And they're the freshest vegetables from the farm. We harvest that day, or maybe possibly the night before, but they're as fresh as can be, and it's always an interesting assortment, and once in a while they get something that they haven't seen before, and so we give them information about how to prepare it, and we share recipes. We also have this market. This is our on-site market, and we keep it open from 9 to 7 every day, and anyone is welcome. And we keep our cooler stocked, and we have frozen pizzas in the freezer, sometimes bread, sometimes soup, anything we come up with that we can pass on. We make sauerkraut in the midsummer to fall. We have some other value-added products here. And then we have our pizza nights, which has been really the thing that has brought us to the point where we can actually, pay some of the people that are working here start to work. It's allowing us to start to work on some educational experiences.
My name is David S. Cargo. I don't know if you can see my car license plate. I teach a class here on how to build your own wood-fired brick oven. And it's the most popular class on building outdoor wood-fired brick ovens in the United States, as best I can tell.
How many are you anticipating today?
2.
Oh.
But they're driving an hour and a half to get here, which is not a record. I'm teaching my class, I'm scheduled in 16 classes this year in 5 states. And last year I had a class that was where I taught in Maine, and somebody drove there from Ohio just to take the class.
Do you do these classes often at the Borner Farm?
I'm scheduled to do 3 of them this summer. I've been teaching here since 2010.
We have a processor's permit, which means we can make the added value products and sell them at retail. We have the restaurant license, which allows us to do pizza nights. I have a kitchen operator's license, which allows us to use the kitchen that we've installed. Beer and wine license, of course, for the pizza nights. Our inspector came last week, about maybe 2 hours before pizza night started, and we passed with flying colors, which is always good. So those are all big expenses that, allow us to do events like the pizza night, but the pizza night is really the only thing that allows us to cover those expenses.
Well, I'm Baard Webster, and I'm a husband of Diane, who's doing the Borner Farm. And I start with the ovens the night before. So I start usually about 6:37, somewhere in there, to have a fire, and then keep that going about 3 or 4 hours. And by the time I close up the ovens at night, it's about 350 degrees in these ovens. And then I'll put a cover over the opening, and then I'll get up the next morning, so today on a Friday, get up about 7 and be up here, and then start the fires. There's enough coals in the ovens to start the fire again, and the ovens have cooled down to about 250. And then I'll start the fires back up, load them every half hour to 45 minutes throughout the day. It's about 10 o'clock this morning right now, and the temperature of the ovens are 555 degrees, which is a nice temp. We'll try to get them up to over 800 before we start to, we'll take out about half of the coals and push the other half back in to the back. And then we'll have, using this kindling here under the oven, we will always have a fire going on in the back, and that allows the pizza, the cheeses to brown nicely. Otherwise, you'll get them in, the cheese will melt, they won't brown as nice. So we keep a little fire going in the back, and that also keeps the temperature up. When we're finished, after say 4 hours of cooking, and maybe we started at 820, 825 in temp, it'll only be dropped to about 750. So it really holds the temp. And then a lot of people ask us, well, how long does it take to get a pizza? On average, we're putting out a pizza about once every 2 minutes, 90 seconds at the very beginning because it's so hot, and then towards the end of the night, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, somewhere in there to cook. So pretty easy, you just need to keep maintaining everything.
I said, hey, there's some knives over there that you can sharpen, so you might swing by, I'm not sure.
By July, we'll be using our own garlic, but it's a little early. We're working with the schools now, starting to talk with them about, we're starting a pilot program for the first graders this year, so that they can visit the farm in the same way they visit Carpenter Nature Center. And in fact, we're partnering with Carpenter Nature Center to do that. We're partnering with Freedom Park. We've put on a series of talks, and we'll continue to, called Tributary Talks, bringing in speakers that talk about local food systems and how to access local food and why it's important. We'll continue to bring in our own speakers for some of our own events. There's a small organization starting that's to support the farm right now, and they have their first event coming up on the 23rd. And we will have our permaculture teacher come and do a little talk on what that whole realm of living according to nature's standards really involves. And that is at the beginning of our 8-day intensive permaculture certification workshop, which starts on the 24th.
If people are interested in attending or signing up for any of these events that are going on here, they would go to the bornerfarmproject.org?
.com.
.com.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we also have a pretty strong presence on Facebook. Emily, my leading lady here, is doing a great job with the social media and keeping in touch with everyone and getting some good conversations going.
My name is Emily Betzler, and I'm the background person here at the farm. I do the computer stuff, the email communications, the Facebook, other social media, contacting teachers and students for workshops and classes, pretty much all the boring background stuff. That's what I do. And in my spare time, I try and grow flowers, but I don't have that much spare time.
Right now we're just forking in some compost into the soil to make the soil nice and rich and healthy. We're loosening it up too so the soil isn't super compact. And we're going to be planting lettuce in this row and in that row right here. So right now we're just kind of forking it in and raking it. And yeah, that's what we're doing.
I've had such good luck with everybody, all the people that have come and worked on the farm. We've just had such a great, we call them our farm fam because it's very hard to see them go. We usually keep in touch. Often they come back either to visit or to work. And there's little things about them that, you know, we could run down the list right now. You know, Rachel loved to hum while she was harvesting, and Kelly Bond always said, right on.
You're gonna put that down and eat it? Gonna put it out of its misery maybe?
So how's your year going so far?
Fantastic. This is just keeps getting better, and we've got a great crop going. We've had really fun, good pizza events so far. We have a brick oven class this coming Saturday. My team is wonderful. They're very self-motivated and getting the job done, and yeah, I feel very positive. I think good things are happening here on this property.
Everyone works really hard here, but they're a friendly bunch too. So why not check it out yourself? On Walnut Street, top of the hill past the fire station, at the Borner Farm.